welcome in the Rover Sports here. We are on, not on, but we're with 92.9 ESPN's Jeff Wright here. And Jeff, fortunately, let's start off with Zach Randolph, how special he was to follow for being a Grizzly fan and what he brought to the city since the move from Vancouver. Zach Randolph, when you think of Grizzlies, you think ZBO.
Yeah, it's weird because the Grizzlies have had success before. The Pau Gasol era, with TB Brown and whatnot. The Grizzlies had success, but that really wasn't a team that ever kind of embraced and encompassed what it means to be from Memphis. Memphis is kind of a rough around the edges type city, and let's not make any bones about it. When Zach Randolph came to Memphis, he was a jailblazer. He has the criminal title. He has the rough around the edges.
Doesn't practice with the Knicks.
Exactly. He's a ball stopping forward. He had all of these negative check marks, and in reality, I don't know if he was on his very last chance, but it was certainly pretty close. And he was the guy that just embraced Memphis, and he embraced being a blue collar guy. He embraced being kind of that rough around the edges, hard working, that aspect. And Memphis is this unique city that if you just love it and you embrace it, it loves you back tenfold more. And he's the type of guy that can be paying off utility bills for those that can't afford it, and then maybe slinging some dice that night. It's like that's how it is. And the thing about Memphis is that's okay. Like that's accepted. It's that's just kind of part of what it is, and it's a unique environment because though he's not he's from Gary, Indiana. He's not a Memphian at heart. He's really embraced it, and you see his comments yesterday after he signs with the Kings. He says, that's still my city, that's still my home, and it's really fitting when you see a guy that is able to adopt the mantra of an entire city and live it, earn it, and then everyone just embraced it.
Look at Dave Yeager, you look at Tony Allen and Zach Randolph. You guys were the anti-Warriors, played kind of a 90s style of rough basketball. You don't want to get in a street fight with these guys. Personally, I loved it, but now it seems like the Grizzlies from the outside are conforming a little bit. Chandler Parsons, Marc Gasol shooting threes. You bring in Ben McLemore. Do you think that is the right way to go, kind of shooting threes, evolving with the NBA, or do you kind of miss that old, unique style of Memphis, ground and pound kind of basketball?
Yeah, I think the ship had sailed. When the Grizzlies made the decision to bring in David Fizdale, I think at that point they were announcing from an organizational standpoint that, all right, we're going to the current NBA. We're going to try and space and pace, if you will. When you mentioned back the ground and pound, I kind of equate it to it's either a pitcher that pitches backwards, maybe he doesn't have the big fastball, so he's relying on a lot of breaking stuff, a lot of off-speed pitches, and in fastball counts normally he's going to be throwing the breaking stuff to kind of just keep you off balance, and that was kind of how they had success. Or you could even use the example, they were a knuckleball guy, and when they were on, it was tough to hit, but certainly when it was off, it didn't look good at times. And so to me, it's one of these situations where if you're dealing with a 32-year-old Zach Randolph, a 31-year-old Tony Allen, I think you can then consider keep kind of going with the status quo that is a lot of half-court offense, a lot of ground and pound, if you will. But now there's the 37, 38. There's a lot of miles in the body. It's not like when you're offering them 3-year deals that these are going to be spring chickens, and so you're not paying for them in their prime. And so for me, it's a situation where it sucks. You also understand, being in our profession, they got to move on at some point. It's never gonna be comfortable. It's never gonna be something that they enjoy. And so to me, it seems like this is the most appropriate time. It didn't get bitter with Zach Randolph. I am curious to see how it goes when Tony Allen eventually moves on. That feels like it's got the chance to get bitter, and to me, that's kind of the sad thing. It's like when Zach gets 2 years, $24 million, everyone can realize, hey, pat him on the back, congratulate him, everybody move on. But Tony Allen's not going to get that, and there's going to be this bitterness. They bring in a Ben McLemore, as you mentioned, and a lot of bitterness is still held over from Chandler Parsons because a lot of the guys that were part of the Core 4 era, there's bitterness towards Chandler because he was never healthy, and and there's
He's
that
out on Instagram and.
Well, there's the element of that, but I think the main thing is guys are wondering why would you give this guy that kind of contract when he's not healthy? You know he's not healthy. We know he's not healthy. Why do you give him that kind of contract? And I also understand from the Grizzlies' perspective. Hey, if you're Memphis and you've proven that you're not all that great in the draft, you got to do it with free agents that are, kind of throwing darts. And maybe you hit on 2 or 3, and maybe you're going to miss on 2 or 3, but you got to take a chance on a guy like Chandler Parsons, because otherwise your ceiling was very obvious. It was kind of the second round of the playoffs. Maybe you get feisty, and maybe Oklahoma City has a Russell Westbrook injury, and you're able to go to the Western Conference Finals. But even then, you saw it was a 4-game sweep.
I look at the Memphis Grizzlies. They're the anti-Sixers, and you guys are the Baltimore Ravens of the NFL. Jeff, you're obviously a big NFL fan. In the NFL, if you keep putting yourself in the mix like the Ravens did, eventually you're going to get that special breakout season where Flacco hit, the player against Denver. They went on to win the Super Bowl. In the NBA, even though you're in the mix every year, you're like the Baltimore Ravens of the AFC. The NBA, it's not a one-game playoff scenario where parity can take over. And in Philadelphia, I just wanted to know kind of a Memphis point of view, because you guys are the anti-Sixers.
Sure.
You're very good every year, but you're not. But you can't win the championship. You can't get over that hump. Would you still trade the last 4 years for maybe like a Sam Hinkie sort of season? And do you resent Sam Hinkie? Do you get where Philly fans might be championship or bust? Because I talked to the people in Memphis, and it's not championship or bust. You guys love the heck out of the Grizzlies and so many members.
No, and you have to look at it this way. Like, to me, I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. And you look at a city like Philly, where Philly's a big city. There's things to do, and the city of Philadelphia is not dependent on the Sixers being good to kind of give it a rallying cry. I mean, there's still got the Eagles, you still got the Phillies. Sorry about that, but there's still the aspects. There's other things going on. The Grizzlies are kind of what make Memphis kind of a city now. Like, that's not entirely fair or maybe entirely true, but that's kind of it's certainly the PR front, if you will, of Memphis. It's the public persona. It's what, and I mean, honestly, I went to school in California. When the Grizzlies had their run in 2011, 12, 13, 14, it kind of made being from Memphis cool, which was weird to think about. Like, the Grizzlies built a team around Zach Randolph and Tony Allen. Like, think about that. Like, they built a respected team around that. And so there's this element that Memphis needs the Grizzlies to be good. Otherwise, you really run the risk of, with no tickets, no revenue, they have in their contract that they have to stay for a while. You really run the risk of them sucking and leaving. There's not the risk the Philadelphia 76ers are leaving Philly. I mean, they're not.
That's not going to happen. But you saw it happen in St. Louis in certain markets where they're just down a little bit, and then there's money, and there's always Vegas. Like, every team wants to go to Vegas now. Memphis is a small market, so you can't really take the chance of losing the team, because if you lost the Grizzlies, it would be devastating for the city.
100%. I mean, that's the way it is. And especially in a city where, like Memphis obviously has the racial past and whatnot. And I'm not really a guy that loves, like, focusing on that, but the aspect of it is it's clearly a very racially divided city. There's 60% black, 40% white. The one thing that everyone can agree on in the city is everyone loves the Grizzlies. And is it right? Is that some people might kind of roll their eyes and say it's backwards to think that a basketball team is responsible for helping bring a city together across racial or social lines, but it's like, something's got to do it. And if it's a basketball team, so be it. And I'm a big results guy, and to me, it's like, if that's what it is, who cares? Like, who cares what the avenue is? If it's successful, that's all that really matters to me.
Absolutely. And this is Jeff Wright, 92.9 ESPN, joining Rover Sports. Before we let you run, Jeff, why don't you talk about what you're doing here in Birmingham, SEC football, what you're excited about the season, and some cool interviews that you guys are trying to acquire out here in Birmingham.
Yeah, so all here all week, I'm the 92.9 representative, the ESPN affiliate in Memphis, and we because of the market, Memphis is in SEC country, but it's not specifically an SEC town like a Birmingham is, if you will. it makes a lot of sense for me, a guy that I grew up an SEC kid. I covered Ole Miss for about 4 or 5 years, and so I've got a lot of friends here, a lot of ties here. It made sense to send me here because I have contacts and whatnot, and so really what we're doing is I'm piloting the Jeff Calkins show and the Eric Castletine show from here, but it enables us to have a presence here and to bring in some cool guests because there's so few opportunities where you have this many guys and this many gals that are big names in the world of college football that can be here that you can interview on site. It's a good opportunity to use that as kind of a ground in which you can find guests, but a pool that you can find guests. But in reality, it still lets us do our normal shows. We got Summer League going on, which is big for the Grizzlies to kind of, as we talk about the transitional phase that they're in, Summer League's pretty big for them because they got 2 or 3 guys that probably need to end up being contributors. Wayne Selden, a Deontay Davis, perhaps a Wade Baldwin. I mean, Jarrell Martin, the guys that, so there's still things going on. Free agency's still going on. So it allows us to still keep the same tone of the show where it doesn't sound like we're going all the way down to SEC Media Days and doing an SEC Media Days show when in reality there's a lot of stuff going on in Memphis that matters. So it's a really cool opportunity that lets us do both. Got to speak with Paul Feinbaum today, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that Paul Feinbaum's actually a native Memphian. He considers himself a Memphis boy. Went to Tennessee. Much of his career is thought of as SEC, the Alabama guy. But he's born and raised in Memphis, and he and I got to just sit here this morning, and we didn't talk a second about SEC football. We talked about his growing up in Memphis and the fact that Memphis State basketball at the time was his life, and that was what brought him. All that brought him to love sports, and we discussed that, and he got to reminisce, and so that was for me. That was one of the coolest things I got today.
Jeff, thanks so much, man, for joining us here.
Appreciate it, man.
Rover Sports, and call in anytime, man. And we love Memphis up here in Philly, man. And we wish the Grizzlies well. We thank you for joining us today.